So last week I started a project to put every single character from Sonic in Marvel Rivals. This is part 2 of that project, and if you haven't watched part 1, I highly recommend you do so, because I went over the adaptation of the game, how we can include Sonic elements into the game, as well as the entire roster. So with that said, there may be some things that you might get confused on, like the elemental shields. So again, if you didn't watch part 1, I would highly recommend you go watch that first, but if not, you'll still be able to enjoy this video. So for everybody that did watch part 1, thank you very much. And without further ado, let's get right into the video. This is every single strategist in Sonic Rivals. Tails the Fox is our first strategist. Tails will be a strategist healer since he's the tech character. He would work like a combination of Rocket Raccoon and Jeff, where he constantly places down tech that grants team members perks. However, he's different in the fact that he is a flying character. Tails' standard melee attack is called the double tail swipe, and has him using his 2 tails and his spin to damage enemies. Tails will have a bio repair gun that generates a constant stream of healing just like Jeff, only there is no reload. He can also choose to switch to his zap gun that does continuous auto-lock thunder damage. Moving to Tails' abilities, Tails can send out a healing drone called Medibot that hovers over an ally and heals them over time. This lasts indefinitely but can be destroyed relatively easily. Since it's a gradual heal, you can also get KO'd through this. Tails' next ability is Rings and Dummy Rings, to where Tails throws rings onto the battlefield. Rings will heal allies and grant them movement buff for a short time. If enemies walk through these rings, they will detonate a small charge that deals damage and inflicts stun for a short time. Tails' final ability is Tinkerer's Toolbox, where Tails opens his toolbox that can generate rings, shield, and invincibility item boxes. This toolbox lasts indefinitely but can also be destroyed by the enemy team. Moving to Tails' team-ups, he will have team-ups with Dr. Eggman, as the two will share each other's genius, modifying each other's tech. Tails' Medibots and toolboxes will have armor that fortifies them and gives them more durability. Eggman's Egg Pawns will release a healing mist, healing allies slightly when within their radius. Tails' ultimate is X-Tornado Flyby, where he summons his iconic airplane and rains fire onto enemies. The trail of the X-Tornado drops a plethora of rings and other items for his allies. Tails will be an easy character for beginners to utilize, having his primary attacks as auto-lock, and most of his abilities can be spawned anywhere for easy healing. He can also fly, making him able to get away from sticky situations. Based on his kit and application, Tails would be a 1-star difficulty hero. With Tails complete, let's watch his MVP screen. Next is Cream the Rabbit, and she would be our next strategist. Cream is going to have the unique gameplay structure in which she can assign allies Chow that help them in a fight. Let's start with Cream's standard attacks. Cream doesn't have a melee attack, but her standard projectile attack has her throwing Chow headfirst into enemies that deal damage. Moving to Cream's passive, her passive is called Flappy Flight, where she can fly in a straight line for a short time, but she won't have the ability to freely fly like Tails. Although I can't imagine her running animation being her hovering over the ground with her ears. Moving to her abilities, Cream's first offensive ability is Cheese Toss, in which Cream flings cheese into enemies that deal more damage than her standard throw. If cheese lands a critical hit, it will deal massive damage to a player. Cream can also heal herself with Chocola Chow, which also negates negative status effects on Cream. Her next ability is Ovis Chow, in which Cream assigns Ovis to an ally temporarily. When an ally is KO'd while assigned to Ovis, they are revived. Her next Chow that she can assign is Joy. Joy can be assigned to allies to grant them small healing over time. Cream would have a team up with ML and Blaze called Healthy Friendships, where she can grant herself, ML, and Blaze 25 bonus health for every 100 healing on ML or Blaze. Finally, Cream's ultimate would be Chow for All, in which a wave of Chow fly over a wide radius, healing anyone within. Random Chow will assign themselves to allies within the radius, granting different effects. Blaze Chow grants damage boost, Ferox grants auto aim for projectile attacks, Gibber grants damage resistance, Lunan refreshes cooldowns instantly once per ability, and finally, Spartoey grants 1-hit KO for critical hits. Spartoey has a much lower RNG rate, but anyone who is assigned this Chow should immediately target enemy Vanguards or evasive strategists. Cream would work best as a backline healer, granting Chows to allies while throwing cheese at enemy Vanguards for high damage output. Her kit would make her a 1-star difficulty hero. With Cream finished, we can close her character out by watching her MVP screen. Next up is Amy Rose. Amy Rose would be another strategist. I had a lot of trouble deciding if I wanted to make Amy a duelist or a strategist, since she has showed that she is capable of both categories. But then I remembered the words of one of the wisest people to ever live.
How do you decide between
duelist and strategist?
¿Por qué no los dos?
So Amy would be half a duelist and half a strategist, much like Mr. Fantastic is half a duelist and half a Vanguard. Starting with Amy's attacks, she is always wielding her iconic Pico Pico hammer. Her melee attack is her blunt end blow, where Amy strikes with the blunt end of her hammer. Her normal attack is a large swipe with her Pico Pico hammer that releases slowly, but if it connects, does massive damage. Both attacks are incredibly similar to Magic's standard attacks. Moving to her abilities, Amy's main ability is the Tarot Draw, which has her performing a tarot reading on an enemy. Enemies will be inflicted a random debuff, while her allies are healed and granted a random buff. This would work a lot like Game & Watch's score from Smash, where each card deals a different effect. There's a small chance that Amy can deal the death card to an enemy or an ally. The death card on an ally will revive them if KO'd in a short amount of time, and the death card on an enemy will reduce them instantly to 1 HP. Next is Amy's Blow Kiss that has her blowing a kiss at an ally, granting them movement buff, damage buff, and small healing over time. Lastly is Amy's Hammer Flip, in which Amy slams her hammer into the ground, dealing damage to enemies. The force of the slam sends Amy up into a flip with a long trajectory arc. During the flip, Amy will spread flowers under her, healing allies that they land on. Moving to her passive called Sweet Passion, Amy inspires those around her, granting them very small healing over time to allies within her vicinity. The healing would be to the degree that the point heals you in Marvel Rivals. Her team up ability we'll talk about after her ultimate. Amy's ultimate is called Flower Power, in which she performs a cheer that boosts allies' morale, granting significant healing over time. This would be identical to Luna Snow's ultimate, where she can switch from granting healing into granting damage boost. So now that we finish her ultimate, let's take a look at her team up. I'm going to retroactively add another game mechanic into our game. Some characters have ultimates that can combine with another to create a completely unique attack. These team up abilities are called Team Blasts, whose name is ripped straight from Sonic Heroes. Team Blasts are extremely powerful unique ultimates that take 2 or 3 fully charged ultimates from specific characters with high potential to ace a team. In Amy's case, her Team Blast is with Big and Cream, in which Amy launches Big into the air with her hammer. Big bounces around onto targets dealing damage, while Amy grants herself and allies bubble shields and invincibility for 6 seconds. Cream then sends out the Wave of Chow just like her regular ultimate, only this time it guarantees that at least one ally receives Spartoe with a maximum of 3. Just a reminder, if a character is assigned Spartoe Chow, any critical hit will automatically KO an opponent. This is a fearsome Team Blast that enemies should avoid at all costs. Amy is a powerhouse in both her damage and her healing output. Her kit is easy to use with a substantial amount of use, making Amy a 1-star difficulty hero. With Amy complete, we can end her section with her MVP screen. Next is one of my favorite characters, Rouge the Bat. With her feminine and seductive nature, Rouge is going to be another strategist. For Rouge's standard melee attack called Batty Bash, Rouge performs a 3-hit kick combo. Rouge is equipped with 2 gun standard issued weapons that she can switch between. First is her offensive projectile attack, where she is equipped with a double pistol. I thought that giving her double pistols really suited her character, since she's an agent and a part of Team Dark. Her healing projectile attack is her heal cannon that does area of effect burst healing. Switching to her abilities, her first ability is Bomb Barrage, in which she flies in a straight line, dropping bombs on enemies for area of effect damage. Rouge's next ability is called Batted Eyelashes, in which she puts a harp-shaped area of healing onto the battlefield. Rouge's final ability is called Pickpocket, in which she distracts an enemy, stunning them while she picks their pocket. Successful pickpockets grant 3 uses of rings, bubble shields, or invincibility for herself or a chosen ally. Moving to Rouge's passive abilities, her first is called Fly in the Freedom, that lets her glide in the air, slowly descending from falling. Rouge would also have a passive ability called Nail to the Wall, to climb on walls and hang upside down on ceilings, concealing herself to where she can drop down and ambush from behind. Rouge's team up would be with Knuckles, which would give Knuckles the Shovel Claw and Rouge the Picknails, which allows them to burrow and freely move underground for a short amount of time. Finally, Rouge's ultimate is Femme Fatale, where Rouge performs a seductive dance that lures in enemies. Enemies that linger in Rouge's sights will be stunned and automatically walk towards Rouge. Allies that remain in Rouge's line of sight are healed significantly. Rouge is an incredibly efficient strategist with the ability to stun enemies with her feminine wiles. At any point, Rouge is able to heal or deal damage, making her a versatile strategist and a 3-star difficulty hero. I made 2 MVP screens for Rouge since she's one of my favorite characters in the series, so without wasting time, here they are. Next on the roster is Charmy Bee. Although Charmy is only seen to have a stinger as his powers, he actually does have some healing abilities, as we can see when he pollinates flowers. Charmy Bee has the unique opportunity to be fleshed out within this game, and I believe that the strategist role allows for the most development. Charmy's melee attack is Chisel, in which Charmy stings an enemy that is close to him. His standard projectile attack is called Green Thumb, where Charmy throws seeds in front of him with moderate range that can hit enemies for damage, but also linger on the ground. Charmy's healing abilities revolve around this attack and his passive, so let's skip over to his passive. Charmy's passive is called Pollinate, in which Charmy can pollinate lingering seeds by keeping them in his vicinity. The longer the pollination, the more evolved the plant will get. Plants can evolve into saplings, bushes, and trees. Saplings grant small healing over time, bushes grant moderate healing over time, and trees also grant moderate healing over time, but can also block damage for allies and grow item boxes. Charmy's final passive is that he can fly for a short time if he holds the jump button midair. This would work a lot like Sonic Heroes' flight mechanics, or like Bee Mario from Super Mario Galaxy. Moving to Charmy's abilities, Charmy can sneeze on an enemy, enveloping them in honey, inflicting stun. This can ground flying characters as well. Charmy is also able to confuse enemies with Buzz Zap, inversing enemies' movements. Charmy is also able to perform his final ability, From the Vine, where Charmy sacrifices a plant tier to grow vines that attach to allies, dispersing damage equally to allies and granting small healing. Charmy's ultimate ability is Sting Like a Charmy Bee, where Charmy can fly in a continuous path and plant seeds that instantly pollinate into trees, granting all allies along the path continuous health at a significant rate. All the while, enemies that are caught in Charmy's path will get stung. Charmy is best used as a midline healer that can ensure equal distribution of damage and health to all allies. His balance kit makes him a 3-star difficulty hero. Now with Charmy's abilities complete, I present to you his charming MVP screen. Next up is Ray the Flying Squirrel. While Ray isn't really shown to have any special tactics for combat other than his speed, we're going to have to get creative here. I believe that giving Ray the ability to use flickies is very in line with this character, since he's a very gentle and friendly creature himself. Him being able to use the animals will make him a unique strategist. Starting with Ray's attacks, his melee attack is a tail swoop that he uses to slap enemies. His standard projectile attack is called Flicky Fling, where Ray commands an animal to charge at an ally, granting healing and a buff. He can also direct them at an enemy to deal damage and inflict a debuff. The type of buffs and debuffs that they grant depends on which animal is used. To further elaborate, let's look at Ray's passive called Furry Friendships, which gives Ray random animals. Before commanding an animal, 4 line up in a row behind Ray to signify the order to which he will command them. Animals always heal allies or deal damage to enemies, but each one has their own unique traits. Flickies grant extra healing or deal great critical hit damage. Rickies increase damage or render enemies immobile. Rockies grant additional healing over time or deal extra aqua damage. Cuckies decrease cooldowns or can carry back enemies. And finally, Pockies can increase mobility for allies or decrease mobility for enemies. Moving to his abilities, Ray's first ability is for mobility called Webbed Wings, which has him leaping into the air and gliding on his descent. This will be used to get into optimal positions. His next ability is called Crown of Critters, where he assigns 4 of his flickies to protect an ally. This grants healing over time, as well as a slight defense, attack, and movement boost for a short time. Ray's final ability is Mammal Bond, in which Ray can use the buffs and healing of the animal he's holding for himself instead of commanding them at allies or enemies. Ray's team up is with Knuckles and Mighty, in which he can request to be thrown by Knuckles or Mighty to clear great distances, gliding back down to the ground. Ray's ultimate is called Magnificent Migration, where a stampede of flickies rush toward enemies, dealing moderate damage, while flickies fly by and drop rings, shield, and small chance for invincibility. Ray is a great damage dealer when he gets into off angles, assaulting enemy lines where they least expect it. But the caveat is that he always has to think about the buffs and debuffs of the animals that he has lined up. With that being said, his kit proves him to be a 3-star difficulty hero. But with his ability card complete, let's take a look at his MVP screen. Next up is Tikal the Echidna. She has demonstrated support in her role in Sonic Adventure, and her unique spiritual powers give us an opportunity to place her as a strategist. Starting with her basic attacks, Tikal's melee attack is called Pacifist Plea, where she infuses her fist with light to strike enemies in a 3-hit combo. She puts the fist in pacifist, you know what I'm saying? Her basic projectile attack is Captive Light, in which she fires light beams from her hands that either deal damage to enemies or heal allies, much like Luna Snow's Light and Dark Ice. Moving to her abilities, her first is called Heaven's Judgment, where Tikal charges up 5 projectile shots. If 3 or more charges land as headshots, the player will become confused, inverting the controls for a few seconds. She also has Invigorating Essence, which heals a targeted ally and heals any allies surrounding the target. Enemies that surround the target are also caught in the thread, blinding them and making them vulnerable. Invigorating Essence also self-heals Tikal even if there is no target. Tikal also has Rejuvenated Spirit, allowing her to enter her Spirit Orb state for free flight, which she can exit at any time. She, however, cannot attack or heal while in this state. Tikal's passive ability is Emerald Emergence, in which she can choose a spot for the Master Emerald to revive herself after she's KO'd. Tikal teams up with Sonic, Tails, and Big, sharing her Emerald Emergence ability with them. I know I wrote Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails, but they already have their team up, so I'm going to switch it around a little bit. Finally, her ultimate is called Illustrious Rebirth, in which she uses the power of the Master Emerald to revive KO'd allies with 50% of their health. While reviving, Tikal gains health over time and a bubble shield. Tikal is a fantastic strategist with the unique abilities to revive herself and her teammates. She's well utilized in her team's backline, where she can heal allies and deal great damage from afar. All of her moves lead her to be yet another 3-star difficulty hero. With Tikal's abilities out of the way, let's close out her section with her MVP screen. Whisper the Wolf is next, and she is yet another character from the IDW comic series. Whisper's main weapon for attacks is her variable Wispin, that lets her channel the energy of a variety of different wisps. With this weapon, she has the potential to use it for damage, but also use it to heal her teammates, landing Whisper her strategist role. Whisper is easily one of my favorite characters that I've designed, and I would main her in a heartbeat. For her moveset, I tried to incorporate as many wisps as I could. With that being said, let's get straight into her attacks. Whisper's standard melee attack is the Yellow Drill Drive, which has Whisper turn her Wispin into a drill to slash at enemies. For her standard projectiles, Whisper can shoot white boosts to her teammates, granting bursts of healing. Whisper can switch to a variety of different colored wisps for various effects with her abilities. Whisper's first ability is the Scion Laser Beam, which has Whisper throw down up to 4 crystals on the battlefield. Aiming and shooting her standard projectile attack at these crystals will fire the Scion Laser, ricocheting off of these crystals to damage enemies. But keep in mind that these crystals can be destroyed by enemies. Moving to her next ability, Whisper can place down up to 3 blue cubes onto the battlefield with Blue Cube Construct. These cubes are versatile as they can provide cover for allies, be used to reach higher areas, and can grant healing. If Whisper aims at a blue cube with her standard projectile attack, the blue wisp will fire that converts the cube into blue rings that allies can use for healing. Whisper's final ability is the Jade Ghost Vanish, where she turns intangible for a short time. While intangible, attacks pass through Whisper, and she can phase through walls. However, she cannot attack, heal, or be healed in this state. Switching to her passives, Whisper can also use Orange Rocket Liftoff, which is a charged jump that can be triggered by holding the jump button. This gives Whisper incredible vertical distance. Her second passive is her Green Hover Sail, in which she can gently float and glide down from falls, or her rocket jumps. Finally, her team-ups allow her to share the power of more wisps with her closest peers, Sonic, Tangle, Silver, and Blaze. Whisper gives Sonic the power of Pink Spikes, infusing his Spin Dash with extra damage and the ability to perform it along walls. Whisper gives Blaze the Red Burst, which gives Blaze a jump that explodes, dealing knockback and damage. Whisper gives Silver the power of the Grey Quake, allowing Silver to spawn boulders that can be used to block additional damage or be used in his Meteor Smash. Finally, Whisper gives Tangle the Black Bomb Wisp, which gives explosive damage to her quick stretch standard attack that lasts for a short time. If there was a Wisp that you wanted to see come back, I gave them all a cameo in Whisper's ultimate called Ultimate Color Blaster. Whisper teams up with the entire spectrum of Wisps to fire a laser in a chosen direction that deals significant damage to enemies that are hit. The laser also lays a rainbow blanket onto the field, healing allies at a significant rate and grants them movement and damage boost when in the area. Whisper's kit requires good aim, but gives her a wide variety of abilities to utilize for attack and healing. Whisper is best used as a midline healer, granting both the backline and the frontline healing with blue cubes and white boosts, while dealing damage to enemies with the rest of her powers. If she gets scrambled, she can use the Orange Rocket or Jade Ghost for quick evasion. Her easy yet efficient kit makes Whisper a 2-star difficulty hero. Whisper's kit is without a doubt one of my favorites, if not my favorite. With her ability card complete though, let's watch her Melancholy MVP screen. Up next is Mephiles the Dark. Upon first thought, it might seem that Mephiles mostly lines up with Duelist or Vanguard, but Mephiles has the unique opportunity to use his dark magic for siphoning life energy from enemies and redirecting it to his allies. This gameplay loop would make him an excellent strategist. Since his entire gameplay mechanic revolves around his passive, let's start there first. Mephiles' passive is Eldritch Transmutation, where he receives a Life Force gauge. Mephiles has 2 attack modes, simply named Life Mode and Death Mode. In Death Mode, damage that Mephiles siphons from enemies fills up the Life Force gauge. All attacks and abilities in Death Mode fill up the gauge. In Life Mode, however, Mephiles uses energy in the gauge to heal allies, depleting it with each use. If the gauge is empty, Mephiles is unable to heal allies and must siphon more life force from the enemies in Death Mode. Moving to his attacks, his standard melee attack is Insidious Assault, where he uses his claws to gash enemies. Mephiles' main projectile attack will be the Life Force Siphon. In Death Mode, this auto-locks onto an enemy, dealing continuous damage and fills the gauge. In Life Mode, this will auto-lock onto allies, granting them continuous health. Switching to his abilities, Mephiles' first ability is Life or Death, in which he can simply swap between Life Mode or Death Mode. His second ability is Blinding Darkness. In Death Mode, he throws out a veil of dark magic, damaging enemies on touch, applying blind to narrow their sight, and vulnerability to amplify damage received. In Life Mode, Mephiles throws out a blanket of energy that heals allies on touch and amplifies all other healing for a short time. His next ability is Macabre Cloak. In Life Mode, it enshrouds nearby allies in darkness, granting them phased, making them untargetable and invisible to enemies, and granting them movement boost. In Death Mode, however, it enshrouds enemies in darkness for movement debuff. For all enemies that were caught in the cloak, a dark monster will spawn that deals damage. His final ability is called Conjured Shadow. In Life Mode, Mephiles will hide in an ally's shadow to grant them and himself small healing over time, depleting the Life Force gauge. In Death Mode, he hides in an enemy's shadow, possessing them. Any damage dealt by the enemy that he is possessing will fill up the Life Force gauge. And finally, Mephiles' ultimate ability is Tears of the Princess, in which Mephiles uses his crystalline energy blade, extending it for a short period of time on the battlefield. Enemies hit are completely eradicated, and KOs from the ultimate will overcharge the Life Force Siphon, granting up to 3 times the maximum amount. While overcharged, the Life Force Siphon cannot be filled and must come back down to its normal maximum before it can be refilled. However, overcharging the gauge allows Mephiles to grant a ton of heals at once. Mephiles' reliance on the Life Force Siphon forces players to carefully balance attacking and healing, making him a 4-star difficulty villain. With Mephiles complete, it's time to pull the curtain and watch his sinister MVP screen. Our penultimate strategist is Infinite the Jackal. Infinite has the ability of virtual reality, powered by the Phantom Ruby, and is able to manipulate people's thoughts and perceptions. Such powers allow Infinite to tap into his allies' psyche to make them think they are being healed, in turn, actually healing them. Infinite will have his standard melee attack called Jackal Slash, where he uses his claws to dish out a 3-hit combo. His basic projectile attack will be Ruby Cubes, where he can shoot virtual reality cubes that heal allies or deal damage to enemies. Switching to his abilities, Infinite can also place large reality warping cubes onto the battlefield. If touched by an enemy, the player will be tossed into a reality where stage hazards appear and can damage them, but they'll come back to reality after a few seconds. Infinite's next ability is Phantom Copy, in which Infinite can spawn clones that fire ruby cubes at enemies or allies. If Infinite uses virtual reality over a phantom copy, it lays an area of healing around the clone that allies can use to regain health. Damage within that radius is also converted into healing. Infinite's next ability is Illusion Swap, in which he can simply swap places with a phantom copy. Infinite's final ability is Delicious Fear, where Infinite takes off his mask and performs a stare that shows the enemies their greatest fears. This stuns them for a short time, while Infinite feeds off that fear, granting himself health. Moving to his team-ups, Infinite can transform any phantom copy into clones of Shadow, Metal Sonic, Zavok, or Chaos that mimic the abilities of their respective allies. Keep in mind that these clones have significantly reduced health compared to their actual counterparts. And finally, Infinite's ultimate is called I Am Not Weak, in which he summons a giant sun whose light heals allies over time. Infinite can charge this up to suck in enemies for KOs, but overcharging it will cause the sun to phase out. Infinite's kit doesn't allow him to deal a constant wave of healing like other strategists, so he relies on making sure that enemies are consistently being overwhelmed by clones. This makes him a very hard strategist to use, making him a 4-star difficulty villain. With virtually every strategist done, let's close out his section by watching his MVP screen. And the final strategist on our roster is Sage. Her manipulation of cyber energy would prove useful on the battlefield, so let's get right into her application. Sage's normal melee attack would have her infuse her punches with cyber energy. Moving to her projectile attack called Cyber Corruption, Sage would shoot continuous projectile laser beams out of her hands, dealing small amounts of consecutive damage to enemies. Enemies repeatedly assaulted with this attack will gradually be dealt anti-heal, which reduces efficiency of that enemy being healed. Moving to her abilities, Sage can heal allies by placing down memory tokens that regenerate health and negate negative status effects. Sage also has the Psyloop ability, in which she dramatically increases her speed to draw a shape on the ground. Different shapes will spawn different items. Circles will spawn rings for health, triangles will spawn red seeds of power that increase damage, and blue seeds of defense that grant bubble shields. I know that it says memory tokens on the card, but I'm going to change that to give more representation for Sonic Frontiers. Squares will spawn item boxes with a small chance to spawn invincibility, and finally drawing the infinity symbol will grant movement boost to all those in its radius. Sage also has the ability to use portal gear, portal her and her teammates through cyberspace, bridging any 2 points on the map. Moving to her passive called Incorporeal Form, Sage can choose to phase through walls when near them, however she cannot attack, heal, or be healed when phased. Sage has team-ups with Metal Sonic and Dr. Eggman called Family Bonding, in which Sage can place a healing beacon on either Eggman or Metal Sonic, granting them 30% of the healing that Sage grants to other allies. Finally, Sage's ultimate is called Supreme Sage, in which her body merges with the Titan Supreme. Credits to this amazing artwork that spawned the idea are in the description. While in this state, Sage fires dark cyber shots that deal significant damage and light cyber shots that heal up allies. Sage is an incredibly versatile strategist with the ability to turn tides in battle. While her healing is rather limited, she makes up for this by dealing anti-heal to enemies and granting a plethora of buffs for her team. Her well-balanced kit makes her a 3-star difficulty hero. And just like that, all of the strategists are complete. I think I did a great job in making sure that every strategist felt completely different than the other. But to close out Sage's abilities, let's watch one of my favorite MVP screens. And there you guys have it. That is every single strategist in Sonic Rivals. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you got this far, I very much appreciate it. If you liked the video, definitely leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be making videos every single week, whether it's movies, TV shows, or video games. I will be talking about it right here. And definitely stick around for the part 3 of this video, where I go over the Vanguards to finally close out the series. But we have reached the end of the video. Thank you guys so much again. Thank you for 260 subscribers. My name is Japes, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care.